The words still echo in my mind. "Mom, I don't need you anymore. I couldn't breathe." They hit me like a slap across the face, a knife twisted deep in my chest. My own flesh and blood, my son, had just rejected me. And yet, I couldn't find the strength to respond. How could I? How could anyone? It felt like the ground beneath me was crumbling away, and I was falling into an abyss that threatened to swallow me whole. I thought back to the years I had given him everything. The sleepless nights when he was a baby, the sacrifices I made, the love I poured into him, hoping he'd grow up to be the man I always dreamed he'd become. But this was a blow I hadn't seen coming. It had started with something small, something that should have been simple. I was cleaning out the attic when I found an old box of his childhood mementos, photos, drawings, toys. I couldn't help but smile as I pulled out one picture of us from a family vacation. We looked so happy, so innocent. He was just a boy then, full of love and gratitude. How could that little boy grow into the man who would so easily discard me? I had decided to invite him over for dinner, hoping to reignite some of the warmth we once shared. It had been months since we'd sat down together, and I could feel the distance growing between us. He had become cold, distant, his visits fewer and farther between. When he did come over, he barely spoke, always glued to his phone or disappearing into the other room. Tonight, I thought, would be different. I cooked his favorite meal, laid out the table just as I had when he was younger. But when he walked in, something felt off. There was no hug, no excitement in his eyes, just a cold indifference that hit me harder than any harsh words could. We sat down to eat, the silence between us suffocating, heavy with unspoken tension. Then, in the middle of my attempt to make small talk, he casually dropped the bombshell. "Mom, I don't need you anymore." His words were as cold as the glass of wine I was holding, shattering any illusion of the relationship I thought we still had. I looked at him, trying to process what he had just said. But he didn't seem to notice my shock, didn't seem to care about the devastation in my eyes. He continued eating as if nothing had happened, as if his rejection was as casual as a comment about the weather. "Why would you say that?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling. He shrugged, his eyes flicking to the phone in his hand, dismissive, uninterested in the gravity of his words. "I'm just fine on my own. I'm independent now. I don't need you to tell me what to do." My heart sank. It felt like I was losing him. He was slipping away, but I didn't know how to hold on any longer. But then, the evening took a strange turn. Just when I thought I couldn't take any more emotional blows, something happened. Something that changed everything. The truth I wasn't expecting, the thing that would force my son to realize what he had said was nothing compared to the reality of what I had kept from him, was waiting for him. And it was right there, in the same room, hiding in plain sight. Without warning, he picked up the papers I had left on the table. Papers that had once seemed so insignificant to me, but were about to take on a life of their own. I had been avoiding the topic. My finances had been shaky for a while, and I wasn't proud of it, but those papers told a story. And it wasn't just any story. I had received an inheritance. A sizable one. I had planned to use the money to fix our situation, to give him the future he deserved, but I had kept it quiet. My pride had made me too embarrassed to tell him. But now, he was staring at it, eyes wide, as the shock started to set in. "Wait. What's this?" he asked, his voice faltering. I saw his face change in that moment, his indifference replaced by confusion, then something else. Something I couldn't quite place. I didn't know if I should explain. Should I tell him everything? Should I let him know how badly I had failed to balance my love for him with the financial strain I had kept hidden? But before I could say anything, he continued, his words now laced with anger. "You never told me. You always said there was no money, no way out. But now this? What else have you been hiding?" The tables had turned. Suddenly, it wasn't just about him rejecting me. It was about his realization that I wasn't the woman he thought I was, that I wasn't the one struggling. He had rejected me because of the control I thought I had over him, over his life. But in this moment, he was the one who felt betrayed. And I was the one who had no idea how to fix it. The silence between us was suffocating. His eyes flicked from the papers back to me, disbelief painting his face. I wanted to speak, to explain, but the words caught in my throat. How could I tell him? How could I tell him the truth when he had already made up his mind about me? "You've been hiding this from me all along," he said, his voice cold, accusing. "All this time you told me we couldn't afford anything, that we were struggling. And now I find out you've got this sitting in your bank account?" His tone was harsh, bitter. I could feel the sting of betrayal in his words, but I couldn't defend myself. Not right away. I wasn't prepared for this. I had kept this secret for so long, thinking it was the right thing to do, thinking it was better to protect him from the reality of our situation. But now, as he stood there, face flushed with anger, I realized how wrong I had been. "I was trying to protect you," I finally managed, my voice shaky. "I didn't want you to worry about money. I didn't want you to feel the pressure." He laughed, bitter, hollow. "Pressure? You think I was worried about money?" He shook his head, disbelieving. "I was worried about you. I was worried that you were just going to keep everything from me. I thought we were supposed to be a team, but you've been lying to me this whole time." His voice cracked, and for a moment I thought he might break down. But instead he just turned away, running his hands through his hair in frustration. "You know, I don't even know who you are anymore." I felt the ground beneath me shift. This wasn't just about the money. This was about trust. This was about the emotional walls I had built between us, the secrets I had kept, the false pretenses I had put up to protect him. And now, I was paying the price. "I didn't lie to you," I said softly, my heart aching. "I just didn't want you to feel like I was putting everything on you. I didn't want to burden you with my problems." "But you did," he replied, his voice low, and for the first time I could see the hurt in his eyes. "You didn't trust me enough to tell me what was really going on. You thought you could handle everything on your own, and look where it got us." The weight of his words hit me like a ton of bricks. I had spent years trying to protect him, trying to keep him safe from the reality of our struggles, but in doing so, I had pushed him away. I had failed him. But then, as if the universe was playing a cruel joke on me, he asked the question I had been dreading, the one I had hoped he would never ask. "How much is it really? How much do you have?" I felt my heart race. The question was simple enough, but the answer, it felt like it would shatter everything between us. I hesitated, my mind scrambling for a way to deflect, but I knew there was no point in hiding anymore. The truth was out there, and it was undeniable. "It's a lot," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. He stared at me, his expression unreadable. "A lot? How much are we talking about, Mom?" I could feel the tension in the room, thick and suffocating. My chest tightened as I struggled to find the words, but I knew that no matter how I said it, it wouldn't change the way he was looking at me now. He wasn't just disappointed, he was angry. And he had every right to be. $3 million, I said, the words tasting foreign on my tongue. I inherited it, but I didn't want you to think that it would fix everything. I didn't want to be one of those people who flaunts their wealth. I just wanted us to get by, to be okay. His eyes widened in shock, then narrowed, and the anger returned. $3 million? He repeated, as if the number was too big for him to comprehend. And you didn't think to tell me about it? You didn't think I should know? I could see the wheels turning in his mind, the calculation of what that money could mean, what it could do. And then, just as quickly, his face twisted with bitterness. You know what this is? This is betrayal. You didn't trust me enough to share this with me. And now I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I felt my heart shatter. This wasn't just about the money. This was about everything that had been unsaid, everything that had built up between us. The lies, the secrets, the distance that had grown without either of us realizing. "I never meant to hurt you," I whispered, my voice cracking. "I thought I was doing what was best. I thought I was protecting you." But my words fell on deaf ears. He was already on his way out, his jacket slung over his shoulder as he walked toward the door. "You can keep your damn money," he muttered, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't need you or it. I can take care of myself." And just like that, he was gone. I stood there, staring at the empty doorway, feeling a void inside me that I didn't know how to fill. The money, the inheritance, it was nothing compared to the broken bond between us. I had thought I was protecting him, but in the end, I had destroyed everything. The door slammed behind him, and for a moment, all I could hear was the deafening silence. The kind of silence that creeps under your skin and settles deep in your bones, leaving you with nothing but regret and confusion. I stood frozen, my mind replaying the argument over and over, each word slicing deeper, each look more unforgiving than the last. I couldn't believe it. How had it come to this? My son, the one I raised with every ounce of love and sacrifice, had walked out of my life with a finality that I couldn't comprehend. I wasn't sure which hurt more, the words he had said, or the way he had said them, as if I were nothing more than a stranger. For hours I wandered through the house in a daze, unable to focus on anything. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The weight of everything was suffocating me. I looked around at the things we had built together, the memories of his childhood, the family dinners, the vacations we had taken. All of it felt so distant now, as if those happy times had been a dream I could no longer reach. I picked up my phone and stared at it. The messages from him, from months ago, flooded my mind. But now, they seemed like messages from someone else. Someone I didn't know. I wanted to call him, to fix things, to tell him how sorry I was, how much I loved him, how desperate I was to make it right. But I couldn't. I knew deep down that he wouldn't pick up. He had made his choice, and I had to respect it, even if it broke me. I walked to the kitchen, the place where we had shared so many moments, the place where I had spent hours cooking his favorite meals, thinking that it was enough to keep our bond strong. But now, it seemed like such a distant memory. I ran my fingers over the countertop, tracing the lines where we had eaten dinner together, where he had once laughed and told me about his day. It felt like a lifetime ago. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, half hoping it was him. But it wasn't. It was a notification from my bank. I froze. It had to be a mistake. I hadn't checked my account since the night before, but something told me I needed to. I opened the app and my heart skipped a beat. There in black and white was the balance, the number I had never dared to look at too closely, too afraid of what it might reveal. I had always kept the money hidden from him, kept it tucked away in a separate account, away from prying eyes, away from the reality of what it meant. But now, looking at it, the numbers stared back at me like a cruel reminder of everything I had kept from him. Everything I had kept from us. The inheritance, the money that had been supposed to give us a fresh start, now felt like a chain around my neck, dragging me further away from the son I had once known. The thought that he might see this account again, that he might find out how much I had kept hidden, filled me with a mixture of shame and fear. What had I done? I closed my eyes, leaning against the counter. The guilt was overwhelming. I should have told him. I should have trusted him enough to let him in on the truth. But now it was too late. The distance between us was too great, the trust shattered beyond repair. I thought back to the day I had received the inheritance. It had come out of nowhere, unexpected, overwhelming. At first it had felt like a blessing, a chance to rebuild, to provide for the future. But over time, it had become a burden. The more I looked at it, the more I realized that it was a reminder of everything I had lost. The life I had built had been fragile, built on sacrifices, and now it was crumbling. The phone buzzed again, pulling me from my thoughts. This time, I didn't hesitate. I picked up. "Mom, we need to talk." I felt a rush of panic. It was him. My son. His voice was strained, his words clipped, but there was something else in them, something that made my heart skip a beat. "You've been avoiding me," he continued, his tone hard, yet I could sense the raw emotion beneath it. "I don't know what to think anymore. I don't know who you are, Mom. I need answers. You owe me that much." His words struck me like a lightning bolt. He was angry, yes, but there was something more in his voice, something that resembled desperation. I knew that voice. It was the same one he had used as a child when he was scared, when he needed reassurance. And in that moment I knew that I couldn't let him go. No matter how much he rejected me, no matter how much he pushed me away, I couldn't lose him. Not like this. "I know," I said softly, my voice barely above a whisper. "I owe you so much more than that." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then I heard him exhale sharply. "I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can ever trust you again." His words stung, but I had no right to be angry with him. I had broken his trust. I had been the one to keep secrets, the one who had hidden the truth from him for so long. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know where to start. But I had to try. For him. For me. For us. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought I was protecting you." Another long pause. When he spoke again, his voice was softer, though still thick with emotion. "I don't know if I can forgive you right away. But we can try. We'll take it one step at a time." I felt a spark of hope, faint but real. It wasn't much, but it was a start, a chance to rebuild what we had lost. The next few days passed in a blur. I didn't know how to move forward. The conversation with my son had been a start, but it wasn't enough. He wasn't the same person anymore, and I wasn't either. The walls between us were still there, towering higher than I had imagined. The trust that had been broken could not be mended with a simple apology, and the silence that followed felt like a thick, suffocating fog. But I knew, deep down, that I had to keep trying. I spent the days reflecting, replaying every moment, every word. What had I missed? When had things started to change? I'd been so focused on protecting him from the world, from financial troubles, from everything, that I had overlooked the most important thing, him. I had failed to see that my son was growing up, that he needed me in ways I hadn't understood. But was it too late? Was the damage irreversible? The silence between us was deafening. He still didn't call, still didn't come by, and I didn't know how to break the tension. He had told me we could try again, but every step I took felt like a misstep. What could I offer him now? What could I say to undo the damage I had caused? The phone rang again one afternoon, breaking my train of thought. My heart skipped a beat when I saw his name on the screen. It was the first time he had reached out since that night. I hesitated for a moment before answering, my hands shaking as I brought the phone to my ear. "Mom," his voice was softer now, less guarded but still tinged with the same uncertainty. "Can we talk?" I swallowed hard, trying to steady myself. "Of course," I said, my voice cracking slightly. "What's on your mind?" He paused for a moment before speaking again. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. About what you said, and about what I said, and I think I owe you an apology." My breath caught in my throat. "What?" I was angry, he continued. I didn't know how to deal with everything. The money, the lies, all of it. But I shouldn't have shut you out. I should have been more patient. I should have tried harder to understand. His voice cracked, and I could hear the sincerity in it even through the phone. I closed my eyes, feeling a mixture of relief and guilt wash over me. I should have told you everything sooner, I whispered, my voice barely audible. I didn't want to burden you. I thought I was protecting you. He sighed, the sound heavy. I get it now. I've been so mad. I didn't understand why you'd kept something like that from me. I didn't want you to think that money was the answer, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I didn't want you to feel like you had to rely on it. I thought I could fix things without it. But I was wrong. There was another long pause, and I could feel the distance between us starting to shrink, just a little. I don't know if I can forget what happened, he said, his voice tentative, but I'm willing to try to move past it. We can figure this out. I felt a surge of hope rise within me. It wasn't much, but it was everything. I didn't need him to forgive me right away. I didn't need him to forget. I just needed the chance to make things right. And this was the start I had been waiting for. I'm willing to try too, I said softly, the words coming from deep within me. One step at a time. He was quiet for a moment, then spoke again, his voice a little stronger. I don't need the money, Mom. I've learned that the hard way. But I need you. I've always needed you. The words settled into my heart, like a warm balm on a raw wound. I had spent so much time worrying about everything, about the money, about protecting him, about trying to control the situation, that I had forgotten the most important thing. I had forgotten him. And in doing so, I had lost the one thing that truly mattered, our relationship. I need you too, I whispered. More than anything. There was a pause before he spoke again, and when he did, I could hear a trace of a smile in his voice. How about we start over? Maybe go for dinner? Just the two of us? The idea of sitting down with him again, just talking, made my heart ache with a longing I hadn't known was still there. I'd love that, I said, my voice full of hope. I'd love nothing more. Later that evening, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. The woman staring back at me was older, more weary than I had been before, but there was something new in my eyes, a glimmer of hope. Maybe it was Nave, but I was willing to believe that things could be repaired. I had a second chance, a chance to rebuild, and I wasn't going to waste it. I had learned my lesson. I had learned that love, no matter how strong, couldn't be built on secrets. And though the road ahead was uncertain, I was ready to walk it. For him. For us. The dinner was nothing like I had imagined. The table was set, just as I had always done when he was younger, plates lined up, glasses polished, the flickering candlelight casting a warm glow across the room. But this time, there was no laughter, no easy chatter. Instead, there was an unfamiliar tension in the air, like we were both walking on eggshells, unsure of where to step next. When he arrived, I saw the same face I had seen when he was a child, the same face that had once been full of wonder and joy. But now, it was guarded, the youthful innocence replaced by something more serious, something that had been forged in the crucible of betrayal and hurt. I couldn't help but notice how much he had changed, how much I had missed. He had grown into a man, not the boy I remembered. "Hey," he said softly, standing in the doorway for a moment before walking in. He looked uncomfortable, his hands stuffed in his pockets, his gaze flickered around the room, resting on the empty chair across from me. "Hey," I replied, trying to force a smile. But the reality of the situation hit me all over again. This was a fragile moment, and I wasn't sure how to handle it. We sat down, the silence between us now heavy and awkward. I could feel the weight of all the things unsaid, the hurt, the betrayal, the lies. I knew I had to say something, but the words were trapped in my throat. What could I say that would undo everything? I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. "I'm really glad you're here," I said finally, my voice thick with emotion. "I know it's been a difficult time. But I want you to know that I'm doing everything I can to make things right. For both of us." He looked at me, his expression unreadable. "I don't expect things to go back to normal, Mom. I don't know if we can just forget what happened." I nodded slowly, trying to fight back the tears. "I don't want you to forget. I just want to rebuild. I want us to have a future where we don't have to hide anything, where we can trust each other again." He didn't answer right away, but I could see that he was thinking, processing. For the first time, he wasn't angry. He was just sad. And so was I. The meal was quiet. I tried to make small talk, but it didn't come easily. Every time I looked at him, I felt that pang of regret, that ache of loss. We had once been so close, so connected, and now it felt like we were strangers trying to bridge a gap that seemed impossible to cross. After the meal, we moved to the living room, sitting down on opposite ends of the couch. He reached for the remote and turned on the TV, but neither of us was really watching. We were both lost in our thoughts, in the weight of everything that had passed between us. I could feel the distance between us, but it wasn't as wide as it had been before. It was a small step, barely anything, but it was progress. "You know," he said after a long pause, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about trying to move past everything." I looked over at him, my heart pounding. "And? What do you think?" He ran a hand through his hair, looking uncomfortable. "I don't know yet. It's not something that happens overnight. But I want to try. I want to see if we can fix this." "But I can't do it alone, Mom." I felt a glimmer of hope spark inside me. It wasn't much, but it was something. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, there was a chance to heal. "I'll do whatever it takes," I said softly, my voice thick with emotion. "I know I've made mistakes, but I'm willing to put in the work. For you. For us." He nodded slowly, a small, reluctant smile tugging at his lips. I know you are. And that means a lot. And for the first time in so long, I felt a weight lift off my chest. It wasn't all fixed. It wasn't all perfect. But it was a start. A beginning. The next few days weren't easy. There were more difficult conversations, more moments where we had to confront the truth, where we had to face the damage that had been done. But each time we spoke, the walls between us came down just a little more. The silence became less oppressive. The distance became less painful. We spent the weekend together. Nothing fancy, just the two of us, walking through the park, talking about everything and nothing. It wasn't like it used to be, but it was something. It was a glimpse of what could be, a glimpse of hope. And I clung to that hope, even when things felt uncertain. On Sunday night, as we sat on the couch, watching an old movie we used to watch together when he was younger, I felt the familiar warmth of him beside me. It wasn't the same warmth we had shared before, but it was a step in the right direction. "I'm really glad we're doing this," he said quietly, looking over at me with a soft expression. "It feels good. It feels like we're getting back to something. Maybe not what we had, but something real." I smiled, the ache in my chest slowly easing. "I'm glad, too. I don't know what the future holds, but I know we'll figure it out. Together." As the weeks went by, things slowly began to shift. It wasn't an immediate transformation, but there were signs of progress. I could see it in the way my son started reaching out, in the way he began opening up again, sharing small details of his life that he had once kept to himself. The trust wasn't fully restored. Not yet, but it was starting to take root again. And that was enough for now. We continued to have our long talks, some harder than others. There were moments when the old wounds resurfaced, when the weight of our past mistakes threatened to crush us, but we faced them together. Slowly but surely, we were rebuilding the bridge that had once seemed irreparably broken. I had learned so much in such a short time. I had learned that love wasn't about protecting someone from everything. It was about sharing the burden, facing the challenges together, and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. I had spent so much time thinking I was protecting him, but in reality, I was keeping him at arm's length, creating a divide where none needed to exist. But now, I was no longer afraid to be vulnerable with him. We were both learning to trust again, to give each other the space to heal. One afternoon, as I sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through some papers, my phone buzzed with a message from him. I hesitated for a moment, not sure what to expect. He had become more consistent with his communication, but I never knew if the message would be a simple check-in or something deeper. I opened it, my heart pounding. I was thinking about how you always used to say money isn't everything. I didn't get it then, but now, I think I finally do. I smiled, reading the words over again. He was right. I had always told him that, but I had never fully realized how much I believed it until now. Money had caused so much of the tension between us, so much of the guilt, the anger, the misunderstandings. But it was never about the money. It was about the love, the connection, the honesty between us. And for the first time in a long time, I felt that connection slowly coming back. I didn't respond right away. I didn't need to. The message was enough, the words unspoken between us speaking volumes. But still, I wanted to send him something that captured everything I felt, everything I had learned. I typed back, "It's not everything, but love and trust are." I hit send and set the phone down. For the first time, I wasn't anxious about the outcome. I wasn't worried about his response. I knew, deep down, that we were on the path to healing. A few hours later, he came over, just as he had promised, and this time it was different. He didn't walk in with hesitation. He didn't carry the same coldness that had once lingered between us. He walked in like he belonged there, like he was coming home. And in that moment, I realized that, in some small way, he had come home. We spent the evening together, no grand gestures, no elaborate speeches, just two people trying to rebuild what they had lost, one step at a time. The air was lighter now, the tension between us no longer suffocating. We laughed, reminisced about old memories, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like we were truly seeing each other again. Later that night, as he was about to leave, he turned to me at the door. "I know it's going to take time," he said, his voice soft but steady. "But I'm ready to try. I'm ready to trust you again." My heart swelled with emotion. "I'm ready too," I said, the weight of my own regrets and fears lifting off me. "And I'll keep trying, every day." And just like that, we began to move forward. Not in a rush, not in one giant leap, but slowly, carefully, building something new from the ashes of the past. The road ahead would still have its challenges. There would be setbacks, moments where we both would falter. But we had something now, something real. We had a foundation built on truth, on vulnerability, on the shared understanding that nothing in life, not even money, could replace the bond between us. As I closed the door behind him that night, I stood there for a moment, taking in the quiet. For the first time in a long while, the silence didn't feel like a void.